mentioned that you had the good, opportunity of having more women leaders in the organization that you have worked in. So I just wanted to get a sense from you. In your opinion, is it important actually for women to take up, more leadership positions and, if you may say, seats of influence? And in your opinion, what is the difference that women leaders would bring to the table in organizations and larger ecosystems where perhaps historically they have seen very low representation of women in leadership positions? So what difference would you see
Yeah.
those?
No, absolutely. I think it's something that I feel, again, we don't talk enough about. So I think that there are many different ways in which having more women in leadership positions can really make a difference. And again, I would like to caveat it by saying that we're not saying that women leaders are necessarily better than men leaders, or if you have a woman leader, she's always going to be great. Of course, there are many examples of women who may be in leadership positions and may not be able to do well, just that there are examples for men leaders. Having said that, though, if we take that out of the equation, I do think that in general, first, having more women leaders in certain spaces will also lead to a role modeling effect. So what that means is that if I see more women scientists, if I see more women economists, if I see more women judges, if I see more women senior lawyers, then the younger generation and the younger girls will also be more likely to say, yeah, this is a path I can choose. So because there's so much gender stereotyping that's currently happening, a lot of the girls, even if they have the potential, they're not able to go there. So some level of norm shifting also starts to happen when you have the models, right? So for example, you've all must have seen the movie Dangal, and what those wrestlers managed to do was to change a state like Haryana, which now if you go, you'll see that this has become such an accepted thing for girls to be in this sport. So it required that role model to have such an impact at the norm level, which probably years and years of advocacy, etc., wouldn't have been able to do. So generally, women leaders, I think, can play that role. Second is, like I already said, when it comes to the nature of decisions, when it comes to the kind of viewpoints and the lived experiences, that can make a difference. So we now know, for example, even in the area of health and a lot of health research, the prototype is always a man, right? So even when it comes to cardiovascular symptoms, the way women experience cardiovascular or heart attack is very different from a man. But all of our medicines, all of our research has been done on that. So it's a big miss when you're not having 50% of the world being there, their viewpoints being taken up. And as we go into beyond just women thinking about marginalized communities, etc., then we all keep saying that how do we foster this ability for the right voices to be heard, whether you are designing schemes or policies or making laws. And so from that reason also, I think from a diversity, equity, inclusion perspective, having women leaders can make a big difference. And finally, I think at an organization level, if you have a woman leader or along with men leader, I think they'll be more intentional about probably some of the barriers that girls and women may face in the organization. For example, importance of having creches, importance of investing in some of those efforts.
So what would, I mean, if you were to share some thoughts, suggestions for women taking up leadership roles, what would you kind of share as some inputs and suggestions, and what would you like to tell organizations or like organizations to think about if they are looking at more women in leadership roles?
Yeah, I think I would like to, share a message more with the organizations than the women, because like I said, I really believe that like organizations need to lean in to say, okay, what can we do to create that enabling environment? And so therefore, I would definitely say that, just many times the solutions are not the difficult part, but it is just making or having that understanding to say, okay, what is the need right now? Because many times I think the diagnosis itself is not right. Like we haven't made the effort to understand, right? So for example, I'll give a very small example. In one of my previous organizations that was looking mostly at women's leadership, and this was more in the health space, we were doing this work where women were coming up with some projects that were like their own brainchild and that they wanted to push forward. And one of the women chose this idea that young mothers, when they are returning back from maternity leave, what is the kind of support that they may need so that they continue their trajectory, because many women will drop off at that point, and this was like a non-profit working in health. So within her organization, she decided to do these interviews, and she decided to, talk to the management, talk to HR, but also talk to the women, young mothers. And you will not believe that initially her hypothesis was that women would ask for, more infrastructural level support. They would like to have feeding rooms. They would like to have creches. She automatically thought this is what will come out. But it was so surprising what women actually wanted when they came back. Of course, that was something they did want. But more importantly, they wanted this acknowledgement from the wider team that they are not, just because now they've had a child doesn't mean the organization thinks that they will not be able to do things. So even small things like welcome letters, or them getting that opportunity to say that yes, I can still do it, give me the choice. I have faced this myself. When I was a young mother, I know one of my colleague, maybe he didn't mean it, but he said, oh, I feel so sorry for you. You must be feeling so guilty that you're spending so much time at work. And so automatically, you are trying to tell us that we are doing something wrong. So that this meant that even young mothers, there's a lot that organizations can do to make them feel that yes, you are still needed, you are still important, nothing has changed for us, and you may need some extra time, but we can work on that. So I just think that all of these things can make a big difference.